There is a powerful story about a woman who was driving by a church on a cold, miserable weekday afternoon. It sounds like today and every day in upstate New York during the winter season. She was tired and overwhelmed by all the stress going on in her life. She hadn't been to Mass in decades. She wasn't really even looking for God at that moment, but for some reason, something moved her to turn into the parking lot of the church and then to go inside. There was no one there. The church was empty. At first, she stayed near the back. What caught her attention was the stillness of the space. The noise of her life began to quiet. Then the light coming through the windows caught her attention and began to sort of soften her mood. The space itself, in the stillness and quiet and beauty, began to slow her breathing and to calm her down. She noticed the baptismal font near the entrance, and it made her think of just for a moment of her mother when she was a child, holding her. It was something clean and hopeful she hadn't felt in a long time. She then sat down in the pews, and ahead of her she noticed the altar, solid, immovable, not flashy, but just there. And it gave her a strange sense of something in the world that was stable, even if her life was not. And then she looked above the altar and she saw the crucifix, a real body wounded, vulnerable, and honest. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she thought to herself, if God knows suffering like this, maybe he knows mine. She stayed there alone in the church for about 5 minutes, which then led to 10 minutes and even longer. The building did the preaching the entire time. Before she left, she lit a candle, not even sure why. She hadn't prayed in years. But as she went back out into the cold, something shifted within her. She knew everything in her life was not fixed, but she no longer felt invisible. She no longer felt alone. Months later, she came back to the church, this time for Mass, then for confession, and eventually she entered the OCIA program and completed her Christian initiation. When people asked her, what is it that brought you back to the church? Her answer surprised everyone. She said, I didn't come back because of a program. I didn't come back because of a homily. I came back because the church itself made room for me, and I met God there. The church itself made room for me, and I met God there. This is not an uncommon experience among a lot of people who are searching for something deeper. And the story that I just told captures the feeling behind this third Sunday of Advent. This third Sunday of Advent is called Gaudete Sunday. Gaudete means rejoice. Why are we rejoicing? The prophet Isaiah tells us in our first reading, here is your God. He comes with vindication, with divine recompense. He comes to save you. Gaudete, rejoice. Jesus tells us also in today's gospel, we're rejoicing because in answer to the question of John the Baptist, he is the one who is to come. We don't have to look for another. Gaudete, rejoice, because God has already come. God has already become one with us. And because of this beautiful marriage between us and God, the incarnation, God taking on flesh, we can meet him in the here and now, in and through his church, in the beauty and splendor of the building, in the liturgy and sacrament celebrated here, in the good news proclaimed and lived here, and in our community that gathers here and is sent forth from here on mission. Gaudete, rejoice, because the church makes room for all of us, and it's here that we can meet God. My friends, that's why it's so important that today we begin the second major action of our strategic plan, and that is to renew our facilities for mission. We are now a parish on mission. Our State of the Parish report revealed that. Our strategic plan we looked at a couple of weeks ago, for the next 5 to 7 years, that plan is centered on being a parish on mission. And the first action of that plan we started last week, which is getting more involved in the mission of the church. Since then, we've had an outstanding number of replies to that spiritual assessment survey online. So a lot of exciting, good things are happening for us, driving us more on mission, out of our comfort zone and into a new era. And all of the materials of all those things I just mentioned, if you're here visiting or you haven't been here in a little while and you're wondering what all this means, all of those are available at the Welcome Center in the back. I invite you to take them home if you haven't already on the way out and to really familiarize yourself with what's going on because it's amazing and awesome and beautiful. So today, for our second action, you received a handout on the way in, and that information was put together by our staff and members of our strategic planning committee and some professionals that we engaged to identify areas of concern and suggest possibilities. So I invite you to go ahead and take that out for a moment. And to open it up, and you'll see first, if you open it up completely, you'll see Sacred Heart on one side. We're going to start there. You can see the wording on the right-hand side and some pictures on the left-hand side. Sacred Heart was built in 1964, the current church, and nearly 30 years later, the Family Center was added for that generation and for us now in 1992. And now we are here more than 30 years later, and it's our turn to address not only the present, but also needs for our future generations. You can see some of the areas that we absolutely have to address under accessibility, functionality, hospitality, beauty, safety, and efficiency. All of that's on the right-hand side of the page. I just want to highlight a few of the things that we have to address. The elevator we have to the parish hall is old and frequently breaks down on us. It broke down during a senior luncheon a few months ago, and that certainly didn't go over very well. The number and location of the restrooms that we have there is lacking, given the large number of people we now have at Mass, especially 10 o'clock. There are no restrooms in the side sections. You have to go all the way around the church to the one set of restrooms in the main entrance. There are certain things that are difficult to find, especially if you're a visitor there. Access to the parish hall, the staircase and elevators kind of hidden in a little corner, and then the confessionals. If you're walking off the street to go to confession, we have to put up all these signs to say, here are the confessionals on the side. You got to go all the way in and go to the sides for confession. Also, the main stairs to the altar and the ambo and the sanctuary, the many stairs make it difficult for the ministers to navigate and our older clergy, and one day Father Butner and I, as we go up and down the altar steps and up and down the ambo steps. I remember being in a boot for my ankle, and that was certainly not an easy thing to navigate. And then there are certain systems in the church that are well past the end of their useful life. Our air conditioning is hanging on by a prayer, and the lighting in the church has a lot of settings, two of which work, basically on and off. So most importantly, the windowed walls around Sacred Heart have deteriorated. All the wood and glass that's there has significantly deteriorated, and it lets out a lot of heat and air conditioning. It's very difficult to cool the church in the winter, or in the summer rather, because of all of the ways that it escapes through those walls and windows. And so we engaged some professionals to look at that, and they told us that given our climate, we really need to replace those with insulated walls and insulated windows. Now, if this is done, the entire architectural style of the church changes because it's all kind of a cohesive unit right now. So we engaged the architects there that specialize in church interiors, and they came up with the concepts that you see on the left-hand side of the page. You can see at the top a sort of cohesive style that preserves the beauty of the vaulted ceilings in the church, and then also the elements of new efficient windows and walls and accessible sanctuary layout. It's one level once you go up the stairs or up the ramp in the back. There's a welcoming and focused entrance where it's easy to greet people versus all the many doors that we have right now. And then there's additional restrooms that are not pictured there, better lighting and so on. And a lot more to talk about in the days ahead, but just some highlights for Sacred Heart. Now, if you go ahead and turn to the other side and open it up completely, you'll see Divine Mercy. On the right-hand side, there are the different categories of things that we want to address, and on the left-hand side, some concepts that the architects came up with. So this church was built about 10 years ago in 2016. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary. And the interior of the church was never yet finished. Certain areas have to be addressed under beauty and functionality, hospitality, and efficiency. And I want to highlight a few things. We have a polished concrete floor that was meant to be temporary, now 10 years later is beginning to crack and wear in different places, so that has to be addressed. The walls and ceilings are still the basic contractor-grade materials and paint. The sound system that was installed was of a lesser quality at that time and needs some more work now to make sure that it works more effectively and consistently. The ice that builds up on the roof is a serious concern because it can be very dangerous, and so we have to address that with possibly some gutters and heat tape. The rectory that we just purchased needs some interior work to accommodate the clergy and guests that we were made part of our strategic plan that's there. And so in order to finish this church, we engaged some of the same architects as we had used at Sacred Heart, and they came up with the concepts that you see on the left-hand side, the new floor and ceiling, kind of a cohesive interior style, adding some color there, a focused entrance, and some beautiful architectural elements like the central painting of the Divine Mercy behind the altar. So that's some of the work we've been doing the last few months just to see what does it mean to renew our facilities? What will that involve if we embark in this area? So please put that handout away for a moment. I'll make a few closing comments, and like I said, we will address these in the days ahead and go further and deeper into it. So first, the most important thing to recognize is the pictures you saw are just concepts. They're not plans that are in action, and you won't come in tomorrow and see all of that being done. Last night someone said, oh, look, they're going to put this here and they're going to do that there. Those are just concepts to give us an idea of possibilities. They're not plans. So given the work that we have to do, the architects gave us something for our consideration to go from there, which is why we want to hear from you. In January, there will be town hall meetings at both parishes to evaluate the situation. We're going to talk more about some of the things that I highlighted and others, then to examine the proposals that are out there, and then to engage the architects, ask them questions. Well, what do you think about this? Why did you suggest that? What works for our spaces? So please stay tuned for those. And in the meantime, on the way out today, there were people who handed you these pamphlets. You can offer comments to them or ask questions. They would love to hear from you. Also, an encouragement to get involved in that. You indicated to us during many opportunities this last year for strategic planning that this is an area of importance to you. We saw that in the boards that we did for strategic planning last February, where you could put the dots to indicate priorities. We saw that in the Disciple Maker Index survey that you took. You said we'd like to renew our facilities for us and for future generations. We had meetings and conversations, and that came up as one of the major action items. So again, there's much more to say and do about the exciting possibilities before us, but for now I want to go back and take us back to our ultimate and key reflection for today, given the scripture readings that we heard on this third Sunday of Advent and what this third Sunday is all about. And that is this: there are many ways that we encounter God who comes. Simply walking into a beautiful, welcoming, functional, efficient, accessible, safe church is one of those ways. A simple way, but a powerful statement of faith and encounter. Christianity, the experts tell us, now seems to be on the rise again. And so it's our turn to make sure that our facilities are ready for that they're renewed for mission now and for generations to come, so that anyone who walks through these doors, us and visitors and everyone, will experience what the woman in the story experienced, that the church made room for them, and that it is here in this beautiful place, together, united in the Lord, that we encounter the God who comes.